Imagine holding a small seashell or carving a mark into a clay tablet and calling that your paycheck. What if the very idea of money, something we barely think about in our daily lives, has always been based on whatever a society decided it wanted to trust? Consider this line from ancient literature: "Give me neither poverty nor riches, but provide my daily bread." This comes from early wisdom writings, reflecting an age when money, if it existed at all, meant food, animals, or other necessary goods, not coins or bills. The concept of wealth wasn't yet attached to numbers in a bank account, but to real, tangible things. For most of human history, money was just whatever worked best to keep society running. Let's take a step back. Long before paper bills or plastic cards filled our pockets, before gold glittered in vaults or digital numbers flashed on screens, the history of money starts not with banks, but with barter, the oldest form of exchange. Picture a farmer trading sacks of grain for a fisherman's catch. The basic idea: direct swap. No abstract value, no middleman. If both parties wanted what the other had, the exchange worked. But what happened when needs didn't match up? Suppose you wanted salt, but the salt dealer didn't want your livestock. You were stuck. It's in these daily inconveniences that the spark for money ignites. Trade needed a flexible, universal measure of value, something both sides could agree upon, even if they didn't need it right then. Enter the world's earliest forms of money: shells, beads, cattle, and even particular types of stones. Here's a poetic exchange from an ancient Sumerian hymn: "Grain and silver, food in your houses. Let it be abundant, let there be joy in your city." Notice how both grain and silver are mentioned side by side. Already, over 4,000 years ago, people were pairing consumable goods with something non-edible, but highly prized. Silver, in particular, started to represent value beyond immediate use, a crucial leap in the evolution of money. At this point, almost anything could serve as money. Cowrie shells in Africa and Asia, large limestone discs on the island of Yap in Micronesia, even blocks of tea in China. The common thread: whatever people believed was valuable and hard to fake. Why? Because even now, every kind of money depends entirely on collective trust. Without widespread agreement, an object is just an object. Reflecting on this, you have to ask yourself, what's so different about the money we use today? Whether it's a bronze coin stamped with a king's face or a digital number in a bank app, it only works because enough people trust it and agree to use it. Strip away that trust, and we're back to bartering wheat for fish. With civilization expanding, people wanted something durable, portable, and easily divisible. Enter metal coins, one of the most important inventions in economic history. The ancient kingdom of Lydia, in what is now Turkey, is often mentioned as the birthplace of the first metal coins around 600 BCE. Imagine the leap: little lumps of electrum, a natural blend of gold and silver, shaped and stamped by rulers to guarantee their weight and value. Suddenly, transactions didn't depend on the haggling over whether a sheep was worth 3 jars of honey or 2. Money began to have an official stamp of approval. This is echoed in an ancient speech from that era: "He who has silver in his hand will have commerce in the market." The coin was more than just metal. It was a promise, a symbol backed by the law and the leaders of the society. Coins spread quickly, from Lydia to Greece to the entire Persian Empire and beyond. Roman coinage, stamped with the emperor's image, soon standardized money across vast regions. These coins told stories, carried propaganda, and, importantly, created a web of trust stretching for thousands of miles. But even metal coins had limits. Gold and silver are precious, but not always easy to carry for big deals. Imagine having to pay a year's wages in coins the size of pebbles. It'd weigh down your pockets and probably your mood. The next revolution. Paper money. Here's a line from a Song Dynasty merchant's document. By order of the emperor, the bearer of this note may obtain silver at the office. That's one of the earliest mentions of an official banknote in China, about 1,000 years ago. The idea was deceptively simple. Instead of lugging chests of silver around, merchants carried official paper stating its value, guaranteed by the government. If the paper said 10 taels of silver, the government, in theory, kept that much silver in reserve somewhere. Paper money was risky at first. If too many people arrived to collect their silver, there wasn't always enough to go around. Eventually, governments realized they didn't have to keep all the silver or gold. People wanted the convenience much more than the physical metal. Over time, the link between paper and precious metals loosened and eventually snapped. In the words of a 17th century English poem, promises to pay, not gold or land, trust in paper from the monarch's hand. The very essence of money had shifted again, from physical valuables you could hold to state-backed promises you could only read and trust. Think about that for a moment. Every time you tap your card or send an electronic payment, you're not moving anything physical. You're sending instructions, signals, and promises, backed by nothing more than your confidence that the system will honor its side of the bargain. This brings us to a crucial realization. The story of money is not about finding the best thing to use, but building better systems of trust. It's social technology, the invisible glue that powers everything from bustling ancient markets to massive modern global economies. But the journey doesn't stop there. In the 20th century, money unhitched itself completely from physical commodities. The gold standard, which once anchored global currencies to a fixed quantity of gold, fell out of favor. No longer did governments promise to exchange your dollars, pounds, or yen for precious metal. Instead, they declared, "Your money is worth what we say it's worth, backed by our authority, economic strength, and your collective belief in it." Here's an excerpt from a famous political speech during an era of inflation and uncertainty. "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." While originally talking about the economy as a whole, the phrase neatly fits how fragile money can feel during a crisis. At times of panic, trust in money can evaporate almost overnight. When that happens, just about anything, paper, shells, even toys, might suddenly seem as useful as the bills in your wallet. Today, nearly all money is digital. Only a tiny fraction of the world's currency exists as coins or bills. Most of it is just numbers in databases. A swipe here, a click there, and the trillions of dollars zip invisibly across the globe every day. Yet, the basic principle remains unchanged since the days of shells and silver. As long as enough people trust the system, money keeps working. This brings up a line from a modern poem. Numbers glow in the ledger, untouchable as thought, yet prized as bread. It's a reminder that money now lives mostly as abstract symbols, entirely intangible, yet utterly real in their power to shape lives. But what about the future? Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, for example, offer a radically different vision. Instead of government-backed promises, these new forms of money rely on mathematics, transparency, and distributed trust. Every transaction is recorded, public, and verified by countless computers around the world. No single authority is in charge. The question is, will people invest the same trust in code as they once invested in emperors, banks, or pieces of paper? Reflecting on this, money's story is really our story, one of shared imagination and cooperation. We invent systems to solve problems, then spend centuries testing, revising, and replacing them whenever trust falters or needs change. The journey from commodity money, objects with intrinsic value, to today's virtual currencies shows how flexible our collective beliefs can be. In ancient texts, philosophers warned that wealth could be both a blessing and a snare. He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This insight still resonates today, as the chase for money can both unite and divide societies, spark innovation, and trigger crisis. So, what is money really? Is it gold, silver, shells, paper, or just zeros and ones on a screen? The answer is less about what form money takes and more about what we all agree to trust. It's a contract, renewed every day by each transaction, every time we buy, sell, save, or invest. Let's bring it back to that very first exchange. Two strangers trading value in some ancient marketplace. Whether they swapped grain, coins, or digital currency, the core truth remains. The line between treasure and trinket is drawn not by nature, but by our willingness to believe. Money's history is full of booms and busts, alchemy and innovation, humble markets and grand experiments. Yet its essence is astonishingly, stubbornly simple. Money is whatever we, together, decide it is. And as long as we keep deciding, its story will keep evolving.